So let's dive into an ancient intellectual showdown that feels incredibly relevant today. It's a story about power, language, and how you can win a debate when it feels like the whole game is rigged against you from the start.
I mean, seriously, think about that. How do you win when your opponent has already defined all the key terms to make your position seem ridiculous or just plain impossible? Well, this was the exact trap that was set for the Buddha.
All right, let's set the scene. We're in ancient India. A radical new teaching is starting to spread, and it's threatening the very foundation of the established social order. And, the people at the top are starting to get a little nervous.
So, picture this. 500 of the most powerful Brahmins gather together, and they are deeply troubled. Why? Because this teacher, the Buddha, is talking about a path to enlightenment that's open to everybody, no matter what family you were born into. This wasn't just some new idea, it was a direct challenge to their whole world. They knew they had to shut him down, so they decided to send their absolute best guy to do it. And their champion was no joke. They chose a 16-year-old prodigy named Assalāyana. And look, this wasn't just some clever kid. He was a master of the sacred texts, a brilliant linguist, an expert in the very origins of words, and a top-tier philosopher. By all accounts, this guy was basically unbeatable.
So this brilliant young man, with the full weight of the establishment behind him, goes to confront the Buddha. His mission? To defend the traditional worldview and put this new, disruptive teaching in its place.
And here is the core of his argument. He lays it out plain and simple. Brahmins are the superior class, the pure ones, divinely created and born from the mouth of God himself. Everyone else? Inferior. To them, this wasn't just an opinion. It was a statement of cosmic fact, like saying the sky is blue.
Okay, now to really understand the genius of what the Buddha does next, we can't just take these words at face value. We need to pull out a special kind of translator's toolkit. We're going to look at these ancient words in two totally different ways.
First, you've got the simple dictionary meaning. This is the conventional, accepted translation of a word. It's the label, right? The surface-level understanding that everyone in that society would have just nodded along with. It's what the word says.
But then, this is where it gets really fascinating. We do a second pass. We look at the niruti, which is the root meaning. Think of it like a word's hidden DNA. It's the original, often much simpler meaning before centuries of social and political baggage got piled on top. And this is the key to unlocking the whole debate.
So, let's use this two-pass method and watch as the two pillars of the Brahmins' whole argument, caste and purity, start to absolutely crumble.
Let's start with the big one, the word for class, varno. The first pass, the dictionary definition, is caste. It implies a rigid, fixed, internal identity. But the second pass, that root meaning, it's simply outer appearance or color, kind of like the skin of a fruit. Can you see the huge difference there?
Assalāyana and the Brahmins are of course operating on that first pass meaning. For them, Varno defines four totally separate and unchangeable types of human beings, created by God. It's a wall.
But the Buddha just skillfully redirects the entire conversation back to the word's root. He essentially says, oh, you want to talk about Varno? Great, let's talk about outer appearance. By doing this, he reframes a rigid internal quality into a superficial external one. It suddenly becomes no more meaningful than the color of your clothes. And just like that, the wall crumbles.
Now for the second pillar, sudim, or purity. For the Brahmins, this meant an exclusive ritual purity you were born with. It's something you are. But its root meaning is way more universal. It's clarity or brightness. And this is the knockout blow. The Buddha shifts the definition from an exclusive birthright to a universal quality that anyone can develop. He argues that true brightness has nothing to do with who your parents were, it's all about your actions. If you do good things, you become bright. If you do bad things, you become dark. Purity is no longer a status you inherit, but a quality anyone can earn. So after dismantling the very language of his opponent, the Buddha delivers the final devastating blow. And he doesn't use complex philosophy. He uses a simple, powerful analogy that anyone, and I mean anyone, can understand. He asks Assalāyana to imagine a king. This king gathers fuel from two totally different sources. On one side, he gets the finest, most fragrant sandalwood. This represents the high-born classes. On the other side, he gets some nasty old scrap wood from a dog's filthy feeding trough, representing the lowest classes.
And then he asks the killer question. If you light a fire with that fancy sandalwood, and you light another fire with the dirty trough wood, is there any difference in the flame? Does the noble fire produce a brighter or hotter or more pure flame than the lowly fire? Assalāyana is completely trapped. He's forced to admit the obvious truth. Of course not. All fire has the same quality. Fire is fire. Its color, its heat, its light, they're universal, no matter what you use to start it. And the result is just devastating. The 16-year-old prodigy, the master of language, just sat there, silent. The text says he was mangled, shoulders drooping, head bowed, totally unable to respond. The Buddha hadn't just beaten his points, he had pulled the linguistic rug out from under his entire worldview.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway from this ancient masterclass in debate? What does this story really show us?
The true genius here is that the Buddha didn't play by the Brahmins' rules. He didn't argue within their rigged framework of caste and purity. No, he deconstructed the framework itself. He revealed that the very words used to build walls between people are just that, words. And by looking back at their roots, we can see their original, more universal meaning.
And that leaves us with a really powerful question, doesn't it? I mean, we are surrounded by labels, social, political, economic, that we use to define ourselves and others every single day. But how often do we really question them? What walls have we built with our own words? And what shared humanity might we find if we, like the Buddha, dare to look just a little bit deeper?